Great seeing you here again. My name is Ludwig Koster, founder of the Koster Academy, and we are continuing our masterclass in project management. In this part, I will talk about the future and present value of money. So we're still in the lesson Projects and Finance, and we will be looking at those two important definitions, the future and the present value of money. First of all, we look at the future value of money. Then we look at the present value of money. We look at the future value of a series of identical cash flows. And we also look at the present value of future cash flows. Let's have a look at the future value definition. What is future value? The future value of a single investment is a value that we can calculate using the principle of compounded interest, as we explained before. With a single cash flow or investment, we just need the interest rate and the number of periods we want to keep the investment. When the periods are not years, we will have to adjust the rate based on the effective annual rate or divide the annual rate by the periods per year. There are two different calculations. Typically, in financial calculations, people take the yearly interest and divide it by the number of periods that we are considering. On the other hand, we neglect the compounding over those periods, and when we do the compounding over these periods, we find what we call the effective annual rate of the investment. So the future value is equal to the present value, what we invest today, multiplied by 1 plus the interest rate to the power n. Like I said, the present value is the originally invested amount. In our case, I take $5,000. Future value, FV, is the future value of the initial investment after investing over a period of n years. IY is the yearly interest or discount rate, and n is the number of years. In our case, I take 5 years. So when we calculate the future value, we take the initial investment, the $5,000, and we'll multiply this with 1 plus the interest rate, 0.05 to the power of 5, which gives us a future value after 5 periods of $6.38K. In many cases, we will see that we have a series of identical cash flows, and in that case, we can apply some simplified formulas to calculate the future value. The calculations are typically done in financial calculators, special programs, and of course Excel has a lot of very interesting financial functions built in its interface. We have a formula for this. We have the future value, we have parameters, the rate or the interest or discount rate, the number of periods. PMT is the amount per period. We have to put here a negative value, present value or the value right now, which is also a negative value, and the type, do we consider the start or the end of the period. When we look at those elements, when we put all these elements in Excel, you can find the calculation here. When we have 12 months, 12 periods, what we have to do here is we divide the discount rate of 12% by the number of periods, and we see that after the time we find a total of $12,652.5. That's a simplified formula that we can use when we want to calculate the future value of a series of identical cash flows. Now when we look at the present value, we want to see what is the present value and how do we calculate the present value using the cash flows. Now the present value of a cash flow can be calculated based on the formula of the future value, and here we transform the formula. Remember, before we had the future value at the left hand side, now we have the present value at the left hand side. So we transform this formula, we have a new formula, and now we can determine the present value of a future cash flow, for example, $5,500 that we get 5 years from now, and the discount rate is 8%. So we have the present value, we have the formula like I said before. We divide the interest rate by M. M is the number of periods, let's say the number of discounts per year. N is the number of years. So in our case, M is 1, we discount over a year. So we find that the present value in this case is $3,743 and some cents. So you see that what we get or what we will get in 5 years, the $5,500 today has a lower value. So this new value, the present value, is what we call the discounted cash flow. When we look at the calculation of those values manually, we look at the same calculation here, but you see for year 1 we have to divide by 1.06, year 2 1.06 to the square, and so on. And in the last year we have to divide by 1.06 to the power 8. Now when you do this in Excel, the numbers may change a little bit because the roundings may be different. And we see in this case that we have a discounted cash flow, total sum of all those cash flows, which is $3,104.90. And this is the principle how we calculate it. In this case, we have all the same cash flows, future cash flows, and we can in fact simplify this using a formula that is available in Excel. It will be a lot easier to do that using the formula. So when we have the identical cash flow, we can use the Excel built-in formula, and the formula says the present value, we have the rate, the number of periods, the amount per period, and here we said we have those 12 periods. The number of periods is 12 over the year, so we have to divide the discount rate by 12. So we have here the rate, which is 6%. The number of periods is 8 years. The PMT is minus 500, so these are the monthly payments. We don't have a present value, and the type is at the start of the period. So we find the PV here. We have in fact the 6% divided by 12, which gives us 0.5%. We have 10 periods, and the PMT is minus 500, which gives us 3,104.9 as a final result. Now we have also the variable cash flows. When we have the discounted parameters, we have an interest rate of 6%. In this case, we have different cash flows. Year 1, 350, year 2, minus 520, 3 minus 400, and so on, up to year 10, where we have a cash flow was 450. So what we do, we have to discount this, so we take the 350. The present value of those 350 is 350 divided by 1 plus the 6%, which gives us a present value of 330.19. So this is the value in the table. We do the same for the next value. So we have the minus 520. When we do the calculation, and we see here that we have to divide by 1.6% to the square, and we find minus 462 as a present value. And we continue this for all the other calculations. So we find, and you can do the calculation yourself to find the same result. So when we add all those present values of those future cash flows, we find a total of present value, which is $1,166. So that was it for this part on the future and present value. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button before leaving. Click on the bell button, and every time we have a new video, YouTube will inform you about it. So that was it for this new video about future and present value. I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next videos. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.